Welcome to Module 1 of the Parallel Parenting course. So today we are going to look at understanding what psychological abuse is and the impact that it has on co-parenting, because that will impact parallel parenting and the relationship as a whole. So before we get started on looking in depth at this, I just wanted to define some terms around psychological abuse. So on the Nurturing Coach UK, we'll talk about narcissistic abuse. It might be that we're talking about domestic abuse, coercive control, alienation, toxic behavior, pathogenic parenting, hostile aggressive. There's lots of different terms for what is the behavior of psychological abuse. I'm going to use the term psychological abuse, but like I say, it could be that for you, it's a different term that you prefer. That's absolutely fine. I'm using this as an umbrella term for all of these different things. So the learning objectives of this module are to define psychological abuse, recognise the traits, and to understand the impact on co-parenting. So psychological abuse is also known as emotional abuse, and it's a form of abuse that involves manipulation, control, belittling behaviour, and it's all aimed at undermining an individual's sense of self-worth and emotional well-being. I tend to say that it is defined by the fact that it affects your psychology. It affects the way you see yourself, the world, and other people. It affects the way that you think and feel in general. And that is what, for me, is psychological abuse. So the different types of psychological abuse, and this is not a complete list. So manipulation, they will use manipulation to try and get control over you, to try and get you to do whatever they want you to do. It might be guilt tripping, playing the victim, or even emotional blackmail. But these are all designed to get power over you, particularly in the parenting behaviour. It's to ultimately give them control of the parenting as a whole. But they can also manipulate the children to give them that power as well. Gaslighting, again, form of psychological abuse where the abuser will manipulate the victim's perception of reality, making them doubt their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So, from a parenting perspective, this is constant, especially when you're separated. Almost every single communication you have will involve some form of gaslighting. They will make claims about the court order. They'll make claims about things that were said in court. They will make claims that other people, police, social services have told them to do things. They'll make claims that the child assessed something. They'll make claims that that you've said something. It goes on and on and on. Gaslighting is one of the most tiresome abuse tactics, because when you're in it, you don't necessarily, or you know that it's happening, you know what the truth is, but they make you question that. They make you think, well, am I right? Did that happen? When you're out of the relationship and you know that this is a tactic that they do use, you still question yourself. Or at the very least, you make sure that you go and get the evidence. And this can be really difficult because we'll talk about legal context in a further module, but I just want to sort of bring it up now. One thing that they will do is when they constantly gaslight you, they make you feel you have to have evidence for every single little thing. So you will record your children, you will make notes of every conversation that you have with them, you will take screenshots of everything. And then when you come to speak to professionals about this, it can almost look like you're being paranoid because of the volume of evidence that you've got, when actually what it is you know that you're going to need it. You know that at some point this person is going to challenge that sense of reality. And so you have to have a screenshot, or you have to have a recording so that when they lie, you can say, well, actually, this is the truth. So it's double-edged, because not only do they, in the first instance, make you or the children question your reality, but they then use your ability to prove the truth as a sign that you are being paranoid. Emotional blackmail, so they might threaten to withhold something from you until their own needs are met. And this is normally what they'll do with the children, is they'll use a carrot and stick approach to the children. So for example, they might make promises of all the things that they're going to do with them if they'll do X, Y, and Z. And so the child will, I don't know, come to you and say, I want to go and see the other parent this weekend. I don't care what the court order says, I want to do that. What really going on behind it is not that they want to do it, is they want what's been promised to them, or they want the affection or the attention that's there, and it's all part. They don't give anything freely. It's always a carrot and a stick. It's always part of a coercion tactic. So that leads on to the next one, which is coercion. Basically getting you to do something through emotional abuse, through manipulation, through having something over you, forcing you knowing the consequences of if you don't do it. Again, this works for yourself as the co-parent. You think, oh God, if I don't do this, if I don't just give them this, then they'll do that. And I speak to so many victims who say, why don't I just give them what they want? Well, the reality is, if you give them what they want, they'll just want more. So you have to draw a line. But drawing a line means that they will come at you from every single avenue possible. So it might be that they threaten you with legal action if you don't do what they want. They might not always follow through with that, but they'll make the threat, which can be massively fear-inducing. They'll make make sure there's financial consequences. So you have to get a solicitor's letter, or lots of other different forms of pressure to get what they want. And this links into threats and intimidation. So these might be covert or overt threats, and it might be, going to court, but it could equally be, you won't see the kids, or I'll tell everyone this, or there might be something, or just that intimidation of what they've done in the past, knowing what they're capable of. It might be that they've made you believe that they're capable of doing something, and even though you haven't got proof that they've done it, or even aren't 100% sure that they've done something, you believe that they're capable of it, and they will use that to intimidate you into getting their own way. And obviously this creates that environment of fear. You're fearful of any action that you take, which leads you into that freeze state, the trauma response, because you feel like you can't move. If you give them what you want, they give them what they want, they'll just take more, and you lose out, and the kids lose out. You don't give them what they want, you're scared of the consequences of that. Isolation, so they'll do their very best to make sure that you've got no one to speak to about this, no one to sense check. And that's a big part of psychological abuse, is we sometimes just need to say to someone, this happened the other day and it doesn't feel right to me, but could we just have a talk about it? And that person is able to say, yeah, no, that doesn't sound right to me either. So you get that sense check with someone. But when they're with psychological abuse, they'll completely isolate you by making you believe that either everyone's against you, or no one will believe you, or that you don't deserve to have friends and family, or every time you see them, they make it so difficult when you get back that you just think, oh God, it's not even worth it. It's not worth seeing these people, because it's just so hard when I get back. And that's how the children end up feeling, is it's really hard seeing this person because of all of the emotions that are around that. And this can lead to that enmeshed, neglectful cycle of parenting where a parent can look from the outside like they're really actively involved, but actually there's very, very weak boundaries, particularly emotional boundaries with the children. So the children become emotional caretakers, just as you were, of the abusive parent. And so they feel responsible for that parent. They want to make them happy. They want to take care of them. They don't want the emotional fallout, which is the enmeshed side. But the other side of that is that child is completely neglected, both emotionally and physically in a lot of cases as well. They, whilst they wouldn't have them sort of feral, they don't. Their needs aren't paramount. So it's that cycle of the child being completely emotionally enmeshed and responsible to the child being neglected, and that's what creates the trauma bond between parent and child. So signs of psychological abuse. These are some questions for you to ask yourself. I recommend pausing the video here, going down the list and just having a really good think about these questions. If your children are of an age that you can talk to them, not necessarily about the other parent, but just about people in general or themselves in general, how they feel around particular people, these are some great questions that you can start to ask them, just to bring an awareness to how differently they feel in different environments. Because the more we tune into our emotional landscape, the faster we recognize when something isn't right. And that's part of the work with children, is helping them to understand their own emotions and feelings so that they can prioritize feeling safe rather than meeting someone else's emotional needs. So the impact of psychological abuse on co-parenting. Well, obviously it's significant. We've just been through how all of those things can impact. It creates a toxic environment of fear, tension, and manipulation, making it challenging for the victim to establish healthy co-parenting boundaries and protect their well-being. Because of all of those tactics that they use, the types of behaviours that you see, you are torn between putting the boundary in place, doing what's right for you, doing what's healthy for you, and the consequences of that. And it can take time and a hell of a lot of support, and ideally a therapist who understands, to go through the fear around, first off, setting a boundary. What's that bringing up? And then we do have a free download that you can access on setting boundaries. But it's that fear of what the consequence is going to be when I do this, and having someone to talk through the what ifs, or what definitely will happen when this comes about, and being prepared for all of those eventualities. So when you do implement the boundary, it's not going to change how they respond, but it is going to change how you respond, because you already knew it was coming and you've already got a plan in place for how you're going to deal with that. Knowing that there's always going to be a payoff. Yeah, it's hard work and it shouldn't be like that, but it is. That's the reality of the situation. Until that other parent seeks help and acknowledges that they are part of the problem, they're always going to be a problem. And so, fortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it falls to you to do that work, to feel confident in yourself that you can first off set the boundary, but also maintain it by having support in place to deal with all of those consequences. And this is a great modeling thing for the children, for you to be able to model that behavior of holding a boundary, even when things are really, really tough, and, acknowledging you don't need to acknowledge it, that it's the other parent that's causing problems, but you can say, you know, sometimes it's really hard to do what's right for you, but you have to do what's right for you. You have to be responsible for yourself. That's the most important thing that they can do. So it is a good model to be able to show your children how to set a boundary, how to deal with the consequences, but still remain true to what it is that you are wanting to achieve. I'm going to give you a real life example here. So, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of you, and you'll have your own. Feel free to write in your journal or in your notes your own examples of these sorts of behaviours. But pickup time has been agreed in the court order at 1 p.m. Parent A, the psychologically abusive parent, before contact, emails parent B, the target parent, to say that pickup's at 11. Obviously, that's not true. So parent B goes back and quotes the court order. Parent A comes back and tells them that they are controlling, and if they carry on, they'll return the case to court as they aren't putting the children first. You heard it. You've received one of these. We call them shitograms. You know that this is what they do. Bottom line is, it's tough, but you just stick to it and you know, bear the consequences. But this is the sort of thing you have to deal with, and the knock-on of that is it's draining. It's really emotionally draining, and it takes you away from being a parent. So you literally, I would get a selection of basically cut and paste responses that you can do, or if you've got someone that can be the intermediary for you, so you're not having to deal with all of these shitograms, you can be protected from that. So the other, like the third party, is able to just respond on your behalf with one of these sort of cut and paste responses, such as court order states, and that's it. Nothing more. No need to get into a conversation. They want to drain your resources, not just financial but emotional as well. They want to weigh you down, and so just start putting boundaries in place where you are protected as much as possible. Those are the sort of things to be doing. So we're going to do self-reflection questions at the end of each module. This is an opportunity for you to really think about your situation. So, how's your co-parenting experience been so far? So what's been happening? You know, what are the biggest challenges? What have you done well? What haven't you done well? Have you ever dealt with a psychologically abusive ex-partner before? Obviously you have, because you're here. And if so, what were the challenges you faced? So write down all the problems that they are causing you. And as we go through the course, hopefully you'll have some more strategies to be able to deal with them. But in the meantime, what strategies have you been using that have worked or haven't worked? So sometimes it's just as good to get a list of things that don't work as things that do. So make a full list of those situations and what strategies you have been using. This, like I say, this is almost like point A. And as we go through the course, you will gain more knowledge and tools to be able to deal with those. So for homework, dreaded homework, just make a list of all the behaviours and traits your ex uses and how they've impacted co-parenting and the children. Again, this is just about awareness, and hopefully you have, when you finish the course and you've started implementing what you've learned, you'll have a very clear way to look back and go, oh God, we have come a long way. You know, when we started this course, this was happening, but now this is happening. So it's a really good way to be able to recognize all the good things that you've done, or the way that you have made improvements. I will see you in the second module.